see.
Are super nice. There's a massive arts and music scene out there, and it's plenty to hike and plenty to do in that area. So
Very cool.
Okay.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've been needing to go one of these days.
I'm hoping summer everything is opened up again, so we can get back to some traveling. Hopefully.
Oh yeah. You know, I'm kind of a homebody myself. I love to get to know new places, but quarantine for me is like sweet. I don't have to go anywhere. Yeah. But it's good stuff though.
All right, I think I got this set up, guys. Can you guys see me? You guys can see me, right?
I can see ya.
Yep.
All right, cool. Actually, let me share this on Instagram. I told people I let them know when we're going live on the IG. So we are technically live, so you could, just so you guys know, we're recording. What's up, everybody? We got Ricky and we got Austin, and it's Dave over here as well. Salud, everyone. Salud. Welcome to the circle. I'm just going to share this on Instagram, and we're going to get this going fully. Let the people know. So what's been going on with you guys? Everything's good? You guys just taking care of yourselves?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, good.
I'm on a farm here, so
you're on a farm?
Daily routine, yeah.
Oh, that's right. You've been on a farm though, right? Even when we first met, you were at a farm, right?
Yep. Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, it's a good spot.
Oh, actually, yeah, I'm gonna have to ask you about those mushrooms in a second, man. Those mushrooms you gave me were wild.
Free range.
Oh yeah. Austin, are you into like herbs, herbal remedies, herbal medicine?
Just Shimahone.
Okay, nice. That's a good herb.
Delicious remedy.
Yeah, that's the only one I've gotten myself into.
Shimahone's funny too, because the first time you try it, it's like you're tasting a whole plant almost. It's a completely different taste of mate. Like it surprised me the first time I tried it.
Yeah.
Which one? Yeah, see, for me, it's like, it's funny because whatever I find myself drinking more of at any given time, I start to just gravitate towards that. So I was into the Argentinian mate for years, and I still am. But now being in Brazil, it's crazy because now I'm like really into the Chimarrão. I've been drinking it every day. For me, it's an entirely different experience, entirely different effect profile. The effects are quite different, actually, in my opinion. It's calmer in many ways, I would have to say. But it took me a while to get used to the Chimarrão. Well, at first it was just a matter of preparing it. That's what kind of threw me off. Like the first couple of years of just like I knew how to prepare it, but not like how I know how to prepare it now, living in southern Brazil. But it was just kind of a hindrance, like the preparing. But once I kind of cracked that code of preparing it properly, I started to drink it better. The experience was much better, and it actually kind of just enhanced everything for me. I uh huh yeah uh huh. Oh yeah, of course, of course. Actually, sorry guys, I just someone said that they can't hear us. From you guys watching on YouTube, or can you hear us from the broadcast? I just want to see because I can see the comments coming in. Can't hear the other Matero's audio. You guys can hear my audio, but not their audio. All right, let's see. Yeah, there should be. Uh, let's see. Oh, I hear something now. Sounds different now. Let's see. Can you guys, what audio can you guys hear? Zane. I think Zane's in there. Could you hear me or could you hear anybody else? Let's see. What I'm doing, I'm using, I can hear you, but not them. Let's see. Let me try to take off my headphones. That might work. All right, can you guys hear me now? Okay. Yeah. What about you guys on YouTube? Could you guys hear the other participants? You guys want to say hello to see if they could hear you? They should be able to hear you now. Well, we'll just keep on talking and see if they could start to hear you guys. They should be able to now. If you guys can't hear the other participants, let me know and I'll try to figure it out. Sorry about that. This is the first time I'm using this double system. You guys can hear them now? Cool. Still can only hear you, huh? Maybe because I didn't go live with the Zoom. I am live with the Zoom now. Kevin, you guys should be able to. I'm not sure why they can't hear you. I can't. Uh, let's see. It's probably on my end. Huh. Yeah, you guys go ahead. Keep on chatting up. I'll try to figure this out in the meantime. Oh, wow. That's beautiful. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I think they could hear us now. I'm not sure, but if they can't, then I think it's going to be recorded anyway. So sorry, guys. You guys will have to just watch the recording of what happens here because I'm not sure. My apologies for the audio, but we're gonna keep this going. Let's keep this going between us, and at least we have people viewing. So go ahead, guys. Sorry about that. So Austin, you said you were living in Porto Alegre. What brought you out here initially in Brazil? Okay, sure. Oh wow. What's the connection? I notice a lot of Mormons drink yerba mate. Is there like a connection there? Like, or is it like a cultural thing, or how did that happen? Yeah. Yeah. Oh wow. Okay. What sort of brand do you guys drink? What sort of brand do you guys? Do you? Oh, so somebody actually. What sort of brand do you guys drink? Like, is there any like specific brands, or just what mate in general? Mm-hmm. I never heard of them. Yeah. Uh, okay, okay, that's cool. Ricky, what have you been drinking?
There's a Gaucho market is like 10 minutes away from me, and I have a whole wall of mate. So I'll rotate through whatever new stock I have come in. But yeah,
Yeah,
man, there's a lot of Brazilian lattes too. There's Shimahon, some of the Shimangu and the classic brands there. But
Madrugada is usually one you'll
I
see.
usually will get one for a couple weeks or a month, and then I'll swap to a different brand. But this is Rosamante right now.
oh, okay. Is it Rosamonte traditional, special?
Special.
Oh, nice, nice. That's a heavy hitter, man. That's a strong one.
Classy.
I think I may have fixed the audio. We'll see. I was playing around with it. But what are some of your guys' favorite brands? I know that you mentioned Madrugada. Yeah, that's something that I've been really exploring since I've been out here. Oh yes, you guys could hear them. That's awesome. Yeah, sorry about that. That was a problem with my computer. That you guys were right. It was about the AirPods. I took off the AirPods. Cool. I'm happy. Awesome. Everyone could hear.
Good stuff.
So the Madrugada, that's something you've been drinking for a while.
It was a good placeholder for me. Like I liked it. I liked it fine. It's kind of harder to find than Shimangu around here. So I do like Madrugada, but I think when I was in Brazil, my favorite one was Barão de Cotigipe. I don't know if you've seen that one or not, but that one, they've got a good Moeda Grossa.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. You see, like I said, like when I was living out in Argentina, I was drinking so much of the Argentina mates that my palate became totally accustomed to it. Totally accustomed to it. And I'm like, Argentina mate for life, for life, for life. And, you know, throughout the years, people have been trying to get me into the Erva. They gave me the Jamangu. They gave me the Barao. They gave me Madrugada. Everyone was like, Dave, no, come on, man. Don't give up on the Erva. But every time I tried to get into it, I just kind of like lost interest because, you know, I was around all these Argentinians and, you know, even in New York, where I live in New York most of the year, I'm around a lot of Argentinians because I do business with them. So I'm constantly drinking mate with them. But it wasn't until literally maybe 2 months ago. I've been here for like 2 months now. So my first week here, I met a local in Porto Alegre, and he's like, "No, Dave, I got to show you how to do this, like step by step by step by step." You guys may have even seen that video. I don't know. I posted it a couple weeks ago, and he showed me like all the techniques about how to get the perfect little mounted amati. And I knew about these things, but not like the specific minutia with the Erva. And once he even gave me one of the separadors, the piece of plastic that you separate with, and then that just unlocked the whole new world for me. Once I figured out how to really make it properly, and then I started drinking it, and I could really experience it properly. So everything changed, and my entire perspective on Erva has changed now. Now I'm like, oh my god, this is like going to be a part of my repertoire forever, because it's just the taste profiles are insane. You know, compared to, I still love the Argentinian stuff, but the taste profiles are really subtle with the Erva, which I like about it. It's like a game when you're drinking it. So
Yeah, I agree.
Deeper into it.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't catch what you said last there.
Oh no, I was just saying. So yeah, I'm just really starting to get into it right now. Really starting to get into the Erva right now. So it's a good thing.
Very good. Yeah, learning how to make it is a big deal. Sorry, I think I cut Ricky off there.
Oh, sorry. What were we saying, Ricky?
I feel like they do that to people, and they're less apprehensive to be like, oh, like what is this? But I feel like people are a little more open to that because it's not as smoky. It doesn't have the same bite that a lot of Argentinian mates have. So I like the bite, but I like both of them. But if I'm giving it to somebody, Shimangu or some sort of Shimahon is my preferable one to hand to them.
Yeah.
I've had better.
Yeah.
Well, that's like my thing. Like when I first introduce people to mate, to be honest, I'm a little hesitant to give them the Shimahao because I feel like that's a higher level in terms of like preparing it. And I don't want them to get frustrated when they're preparing it and be like, oh, sorry, Dave, I can't figure this out. Like, so I give them something like super easy to make, like something that's a leafy cut, Argentinian leafy cut, like a Rosamante or something that I blend myself because it's just like a no-brainer in terms of like preparing it. Well, it's still not 100% like super easy to prepare mate, but it is once you know what you're doing. So the Shimahao is tricky.
Yeah, I found a pretty surefire method for me. Is a little different. I was watching your stories where you have the little gate there,
Yeah.
which is awesome. But I don't live in Brazil anymore, so it's not super easy for me to obtain like random like quirky items like that.
Hmm.
Um, and, and Brazilian herb is really really fine. So if you do it wrong, like it's not coming up anymore, and
Yeah.
you're just super frustrated with it, or it's too bitter right out the gate, and then it washes flavor away too quickly. So
Yep.
you kind of got to find that sweet spot. And one thing I've actually learned that's like 9.5 times out of 10 always turns out well is I put water in first,
Mm.
and then I put the herb on top and kind of push it to the side,
Hmm.
add the rest of the water, and give it like a minute or two to kind of soak in there. Put the bomba in there, and then from there it comes up. But I've got a
Yeah.
lot of my buddies who lived in Porto Alegre with me who are out here in Utah, and every time I bring Shimahon around, they're super excited to drink it again because they miss doing it, but they never make it themselves because of that very reason. They haven't figured out how to get it.
Yeah.
They tried a little bit when they got home, but they couldn't figure out how to keep it
Yeah. No, I
consistent.
like that idea about adding the water first because the water kind of gives it that moldability. You create that concrete situation, and then it just kind of molds from
Hmm.
there and molds from there. It's kind of, yeah, that's definitely a
Yeah,
good technique. That's something that I'm learning how to do myself, like with the water technique first and mold it around. But that little servidor, that thing is like a godsend, though. That thing is amazing. Like I've been using it all the time. It's not
yeah,
necessary, but it makes life a little bit easier.
for sure. Yeah, I can see that definitely.
Ricky, let me ask you, those mushrooms, those shaga mushrooms, man. The first night I had them, I'll be honest, like I was like on a whole nother stratosphere. Like I brewed it for like I for 2 hours, 2 or 3 hours first. And then this was the first night I ever had them, and I drank like maybe a liter of it or 2 liters, and then I couldn't sleep that night. But every time I did fall asleep, I had like some really lucid, interesting dreams that night. Is that something that's typical with the chaga?
I've heard people have that experience. For me, I usually brew up a fairly large amount of it um, in a crock pot. So I'll just set it up overnight, let it slow cook, um, and I'll drink that throughout the day. I usually don't drink coffee, so I kind of mix chaga and mate. But it for me it just gives me so much more internal strength, kind of in the same way that mate does. It feels nourishing to drink that, and especially around these times too, having an antifungal, antiviral, antibacterial drink is a super amazing thing to add to your repertoire.
Yeah,
That early, but
of
this
course.
is fantastic stuff. I'm not surprised to hear that though, because I feel like there's a lot more to it that scientists haven't completely figured out. So I'm not surprised to hear the lucid dreaming.
Oh yeah, really, it was just really strong, lucid dreams, and I was like buzzing on it. Have you ever used any other sort of mushrooms, any psychedelic mushrooms, or mostly just the shaga?
I'm not opposed. Yeah, I'm not opposed to them. Microdosing is pretty popular in all the communities that I'm
Mm-hmm.
around in. I think the interesting thing, which kind of matches up with the homeopathic viewpoint of things herbally, is that we're finding that smaller doses of things are sometimes more effective than larger doses,
Mm-hmm.
which wouldn't make sense chemically, really, but our body has a response to things in a different way when it's partially manifested by our own structure and
Yeah,
partially manifested by the polysaccharides or beta glucans in the mushroom or the plant versus being bombarded with something.
yeah,
So if you're treating, if you're treating an illness, you might want to have a bombardment, and that stimulates is a catalyst for change in your body. But for something that you're taking long term for health, like whether it's microdosing with mushrooms or
yeah.
chaga or even Reiki, I'm finding that smaller amounts of any of those things tend to
Mm-hmm.
work really well
Uh-huh.
because they've become a part of your day, and it's part of the flow. Just like mate kind of adds to the flow of your day as you're drinking it. It kind of
Yeah.
brings you to the groove of whatever you're doing. I find that for all types of mushrooms, that's for me is the best route for consumption.
What's your take
But
on mate
ratio,
though, in terms of health? Like, in terms of like your relationship with mate, would you say like daily use of mate? That's something that works for you, or something that you think that could work for people in general? Because I know some people are like, Dave, I can't drink mate every day, and I respect that because everyone has their own body type and their own situation. But for me, I drink it every day, and I drink liters of it every day, and I feel okay. But that's just my body. That's just who I am. But how do you feel like in terms of people, the applicability of mate in their daily regimen? Is that something you think, generally
I
speaking, is okay?
Yeah, I do think so. I think if you don't have a sensitivity to caffeine or coffee, I don't think mate has the same sort of intensity. And I find that I feel like coffee in general, because of the oils in it and because it's really heavily roasted, is a little bit taxing on your liver and kidneys. And there's debate whether that's true or not medically. But I feel like mate doesn't have that same bodily taxing of your bladder and your kidneys and liver. I feel like it's something that's a little bit more flexible as it's
Yeah.
moving through your body. So the only thing I'd say, the people I've introduced to it, they'll go and have a gourd full of it or half of it and share it with me or whatever. That's usually too much for
Hmm.
them if they're
Hmm.
having it the first time, and they'll be like, "Whoa, this is way too strong." So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
always
I've seen that.
just start slow, and like even if it's just a little t-ball for them to start off with, see how they respond to it. Because I'll bring this wherever I'm traveling or performing somewhere, and I'll be like, "Hey, you try it," to whoever I'm staying with. But some people have no problem with it, and they can drink a gourd or two a day. Other people will drink it, and it's way too much for them. Even coffee drinkers. It just, I think our bodies are so biochemically different that you just have to try it out in small amounts first, and then see what it does
Yeah,
for you. But I drink 2 gourdfuls a day, and I drink all day pretty much. So
same thing with me.
yeah,
What about you, Austin? You drinking all day?
Yep, definitely. I work from home just in general, pre-quarantine and everything, and I mean, even when I wasn't working at home, when I was in an office, I brought my whole like kit and caboodle with me, where I could put
nice,
my thermos and
Yeah. Oh, nice.
thank you. Yeah, I love this thing. I take it everywhere. I've got my Fourth Erva, so I'll make it in the morning to kind of, because it doesn't give me the jitters. It just kind of gets me focused. It
Yeah.
helps me just. I sit in front of a computer all day doing web development. Sitting in the same spot.
Oh, that's
I do
cool.
have
You're a
two
developer.
kids that.
Cool.
Yeah, I love doing that kind of stuff. But yeah, it helps me just kind of keep focused. So I'm always sipping on it all day long. And then
Oh, that's
sometimes if I
awesome.
go to a park later, I'll make a fresh batch and drink some more. So
Yeah.
I drink a lot of it.
Yeah. No, it's like same thing with me. And I've had people who have had a couple sips and they were like, like you guys were saying, like they were like, oh, I'm really, really buzzed right now. But for me, it's like almost as like I'm immune. I don't want to say immune because I believe that the mate is still working. It's still doing what it's doing. Uh, my body is probably habituated to it, but I don't drink it necessarily now. Like how when I first started drinking mate, I really thought about all the effects and the benefits, and that's great. But nowadays, it's just more of a lifestyle. Like, yes, there's benefits happening in the background, I'm sure, but I'm not drinking it specifically to wake up, even though I do wake up when I drink it, even though it does help me think. I don't really go out of my way and think about, okay, well, I'm drinking mate because it's going to do this for me. It's like, I don't know, like my relationship with the change. Now it's more like I just drink mate and I just drink it every day. And, but what I find interesting is, and what I like about mate is that it brings in a lot of people who drink it for health reasons, and that's okay. That's great. A lot of customers of mine, they find out about it through health. Like, oh, I need something to get me off of coffee, and mate's like their medicine, so to speak, for that. So it's a very versatile herb, which I really love about it. It's helping many different people in many different ways. You know, and our culture in the United States, we didn't grow up with mate, but people like in South America, they grew up with it in their entire lives. So their perspective on it is like, oh yeah, mate is mate, and they're kind of laughing at people in the United States and Europe, like, oh my God, mate does all this and that, and because they never thought about that. They just grew up with it. So I get emails all the time. People are like, oh my God, like you're evangelizing mate, but I'm like, I'm not maybe I am evangelizing it, but I love it, so that's okay. It's okay for me. That's my relationship with it. Everyone has their own unique relationship with mate, so let them have their relationship with it. So that's how I think about it. Is like, what is your relationship with mate? What does it do for you? And there is no right, there is no wrong. It is what it is. So
That's how you appeal to the broader audience too, is to kind of present all aspects of it. If you just said, "Oh, here, this is an alternative to coffee," people would be like, okay." But
right,
I think that's the way to get people involved in it, is kind of sell all aspects of it or present all aspects of it.
right. Well, if you guys don't mind, let me ask you guys if we could shift this conversation a little bit to like you guys. You guys know me. I like the metaphysics of the whole, just metaphysics and philosophy in general. I want to get your guys' take on what do you think is happening in the world right now in terms of like what's your take on this whole situation? Whether it's specifically about the virus or specifically, or it could be generally speaking about like the general sentiment of the people on this planet right now. Do you guys have any opinions on just what's going on in general? Any takers?
I mean, yeah, I think it's funny how like you already like Utah is one of the states that's already opening up. Gatherings of like 50 or less is greenlit now. And I kind of at first, was definitely freaked out, like the whole world and all that kind of stuff. And then, as things go on, you hear so many different opinions from so many different, opinions. And that's the thing, is they're just totally conflicting. And I think me and my family were finally settling into this groove where it's like, okay, we're definitely being cautious with certain things, but we're also young and healthy people and understand that, like we're going to have to get back out in the world as long as we're taking precautions not to make people who are at risk sick. We're still avoiding that. But, like we've done some bonfires with friends these last couple of weeks where it's been allowed here in the state. We waited until regulations opened up and things like that. But yeah, now we're, trying to make sure that we don't get, underexposed to things where we're putting ourselves in a position where we're, compromised. So I think from that physical aspect, that's where we are. Mental aspect, Shimahone helps.
Yeah, for sure. No, thank you for sharing that. What do you think, Ricky?
I think that I kind of had a flip of opinion too. I'm usually not so keen on believing the first thing that comes out, because it's usually clarified over time, regardless of what it is, whether it's this or something else. But I definitely was concerned about it initially, but the more I spent time researching it and kind of just seeing the reality of what was going on around here, the less I really was super concerned about it. I'm trying to be mindful, like you said. I think that's the respectful approach for other people too. But I think, my strategy in general is to be mindful, but to still expose myself to things, because our immune system needs practice. We can't be like, oh, we're going to lock away our immune system for 3 months and then expect it to work well.
Yeah.
So we're permeable beings. So we're supposed to be taking in and fighting and developing, all sorts of immunities to things. So I think my way of acting is really trying to make myself respectful of how other people are feeling. But I'm not, I think the three of us here are not really at a high risk. If it is what they're saying it is, I'm not, we'll be okay even if we were to contract something, I think. But,
right. I
plus
agree.
herbs, I think mate helps. I think chaga is useful. There's lots of strategies. As long as you have a relatively healthy strategy for existing, then in general, you're going to do okay,
Yeah. You see, like, I agree with you guys, what you guys are saying too. And it's like, I'm trying to be very mindful of like people's fears, because I know there's a lot of fear right now with people. Um, but at the same time, I can't help but think that a lot of this, the media has brought about a lot of this fear that has instilled, been absorbed deeply into the minds of people. Because when I think about it on a mathematical level, not to kind of like turn this whole thing into science, because you can't really, quantify people's emotions and then compare that with science. It's not fair. But it's kind of like when you look at the numbers, it's like, okay, well, 1% of people may not make it from this disease. Less than 1% of people, and over 85% of people who do get it will survive and be totally fine, and most of which
Right.
people who have hardly any symptoms, even if they do have it. So it's kind of like, I definitely want to be mindful of people and their fears, but I think my gut feeling is that this thing is a little bit overblown. It's a little bit over exaggerated. And I know this is going to make a lot of people angry, but I saw some footage yesterday of people at the beach in Florida, and they did all these reaction pieces, and they were saying, "Oh, most of the people they were interviewing about those people on the beach were like, those people are stupid, they're crazy, they're killing us." I don't know. Honestly, if I'm totally honest, when I saw those kids at the beach, I said, "Go for it." In my mind, I said, "Okay, man. It's like, it's gotta like you gotta get beyond." It's like what you think will happen, I believe. It's like the people who are perpetuating the fear, they're living in fear all day. Their cells are just saying fear, fear, fear. Every cell in their body is just screaming fear, fear, fear. That compromises the immune system, I believe. I do believe that
Yes.
fear will compromise the immune system. And I think
100%.
the reverse is confidence and saying, I'm okay, I'm healthy, everything's going to be okay. And this may sound a little naive, but I really believe that helps boost your immune system. That helps protect you. The belief that you're well will help create wellness,
I also think it's kind of an intelligence test in a
Mm.
way. It's a test of your ability to kind of rationally observe reality. And I think people are having very emotional responses. I'm being very broad in my opinion, but
Mhm.
if people get very emotional, and I think because they're reacting from a place of fear, they're not necessarily thinking it through in a way that they would normally think it through. Even people I'm pretty confident are generally look for more information before drawing a conclusion have really like jumped onto the ship of, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I think there's more hope than there is reason to be
Right.
apocalyptically afraid.
Because when I
To
look
me,
at
at
the
least.
news about it, it's like all the broadcasters, their entire position, and not all of them, but like 99% of them, is a negative, dreary position that they take. Like that's the position they're taking. Like the economy is falling apart, and this is that, and this and that. It's like they're perpetuating this fear. And I believe that let's talk about Americans just in general. Like most Americans watching the TV, watching this, they're just going to take that as facts. Like, oh my
It's as
God,
much a
they're telling me to
mental
be scared,
virus
so I should be scared.
as-
They're telling me to be scared, so now I'm scared. And I don't
Mhm.
know. I just feel like you got to like counteract that a little bit and like don't absorb too much of the fear, because the fear gets perpetuated. It gets perpetuated, and it's a vicious cycle. I don't know. That's what I think. Just got to be
No,
careful
I
of absorbing
definitely
too much of the fear.
agree with that. I think too it's a hard thing to even have a conversation about. What always concerns me, things that this is in general too. If I can't have a conversation about it, if it's taboo to talk about something,
Mm.
that makes me wonder why it's taboo to talk about.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah,
goes for
had to get
everything,
there.
not even that.
Yeah.
Like that, and whenever there's agreement in all categories, on all different sides, left, right, up, down, that's interesting to me because nobody ever agrees on everything.
Yeah.
So for there to be one narrative being spread for whatever, that to me makes me want to investigate further and learn a little bit more because that's unusual. That's unusual.
Right.
People don't usually agree like that. Doctors don't even agree like that. You could go
Right.
to 3 doctors and you get 3 diagnoses.
Of
So,
course. Oh yeah, that's
yeah.
the truth. No, thank you guys for sharing that. I wanted to get you a little, take on. I know it's a touchy topic. The whole.
Yeah. I'm trying to be tactful too. My
Yeah.
response.
No. So am I. Yeah.
I think that's why there were crickets at first when you asked the question.
Yeah. I know.
Yes.
I put you guys on the spot,
That's
man. I
true.
put you guys on the spot. I had to.
No, it's good. It's good.
That's all right.
Yeah, sorry about that, but I just try to keep it real, like that's how I try to live my life, just like authentic, like let's have an authentic conversation about something.
Yeah.
And I know
It's good to
that,
have those conversations.
yeah,
It's important.
it's
definitely
important, and that's how I think of like mate, it's like when I first started drinking mate, that's what really symbolized the the act of drinking mate, having a conversation with people, something as simple as just sitting down. You have a conversation. It could be about anything, and you're just sharing mate. So for me, that's what the mate circle represents. It represents the sharing of everything. You know, the sharing of ideas, the sharing of mate, the sharing of yourself. So I think
Well,
that's
I
it's
like how
important.
you instantly have a friend. You
Yeah,
know, like if you, especially in the United States, down in Brazil, it's just like you show up to someone's house. If you didn't bring Shimahone, it's like a little whatever.
yeah,
Somebody there will make it for you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's just expected. You meet with friends, you're going to be drinking Shimahone. Here in
yeah,
the States, I mean, like, look, I just made two more friends
yeah,
because we all like to drink, mate and Shimahone. Whatever we, think or believe or do, our hobbies. Other than that, it doesn't matter. We're okay with each other. We like each other, and we've got this common ground because it's such a unique thing for Americans to be into, that it just helps bind us, and then it also helps connect us to another culture. Like I tell a Brazilian that, oh yeah, I love Shimahone. They're like, what? No way! Like already automatically, boom, we're friends, and I love that. Like that's my favorite part about Shimahone
yeah.
and mate is that just
I have
instantly.
a
Or
I have a good
So
story
true.
about Mahone. When I bought my last car, it was a used car. It went on Craigslist, and I found somebody who was selling the car that I was looking for, and he was Brazilian, and he didn't speak super great English, so his son was translating for us when we were talking. So the first time I went there, I checked it out, and I decided I was going to get it, and he invited me in, and we were talking, and I saw his gourd, and I was like, "Oh, do you drink Shimahone?" And he was like, oh, "Shimahone." He was so excited that I knew what it was. So when I
Yeah,
went back and paid for the car, he had a gourd all done up with a thermos ready for me to drink as I was signing the papers. So this is a
that's
beautiful,
awesome.
beautiful connection in a random situation.
oh,
But
I
That's
love that.
amazing.
I
yeah.
love that. That's what it is, man. It's just a connector. It's a beautiful connector.
Hmm.
It's a beautiful. Let's ask these people. I think that the people on YouTube can still see us. You guys have any questions? If you guys can still see us, I think you can. Uh, Feel free to ask questions if you have any, and I'll post them onto this video. I think that there's still yeah, there's actually 15 people viewing.
Nice.
Uh, if you
What's up,
guys can
y'all?
see everybody still, let me know because I know that the Zoom goes for 40 minutes, but I think that it's still recording, so I think we're okay. But yeah, so I'm out here in southern Brazil, learning some Portuguese. Not as much as I wanted
Nice.
to because everything's kind of on lockdown over here. You know, the city's on lockdown, so generally it's a very social place in southern Brazil. But right now, with this whole Corona, things are a little different. So, learning as much as I
Yeah,
can.
what's your living situation there? Are you in a hotel, somebody's
No,
house,
no, I
renting a
rented.
house?
It's like a little like apartment Airbnb. Yeah,
Cool.
Nice.
rented this whole apartment. It's really cool. It's in Bom Fin neighborhood.
Okay.
So it's yeah, it's
That's still
nice.
part of Porto Alegre, right?
Yeah, 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 definitely, definitely. It's
Cool.
it's a nice little apartment, man. Real quiet sort of area.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Yeah,
That's
last time I
awesome.
was there was 3 years ago, and I took my wife back to kind of meet, the people that I had met down there during my 2 years, and it's just such a good place. But we there were things I definitely do differently. Like as a missionary, I relied on the bus system.
Yeah.
Turns out you can rent a car down there for about the price that I spent on bus
Oh
tickets.
wow.
And yeah, and then I would have been able to, be less concerned about walking places at night with my wife.
Yeah, yeah,
Like if
yeah,
it's just me, it's whatever. I know these streets, I can speak Portuguese, but if someone starts, talking to my wife, she can't speak back to them, then it already paints like a target on her back. Uh,
sure.
and now that next time I go, I'll definitely know that I can rent a car rather than having to rely on the busing system, and that would be much better. I want to. I don't know how much like talking to gauchos you've done, but they have a thing like the really like hardcore traditional gauchos, which there's a ton of them out there. They'll dress in their full like pants and boots and have like a big handlebar
Yeah,
mustache,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I love it. And they'll just have this thing called a casa caipira, which is just like a shanty house in the back, And it's just where like it's kind of funny. The tradition is like that's just where like the guy goes to have his like alone time kind of a thing.
Oh, that's
From what
cool.
I've understood. But I would love to just build a house in one of my friends' backyards because it's just bricks and cement. That's how they do it down there, and just have a place to stay permanently anytime I want to go and visit and just load
Yeah,
up in their
That'd be awesome.
fajita.
You should do it.
that would definitely be cool. Yeah, it's starting to get a little chilly down here. That's when the gauchos come out. I heard that's when they start to like dress up and they get their boots out and everything. As you know, the seasons are
Yep.
reversed here. So right now it's we're just entering winter. You know, and then the
It
East
gets
Coast.
cold down there too.
Yeah. No, I've been through many winters in Argentina, and it's freezing. Not freezing. Well, yeah, sometimes it is freezing, literally. But here's a little bit
Yep.
warmer because it's further north than Argentina. But not as bad. Not as bad. But yeah. It's You said you were down here for 2 years. How long did it take you to start speaking the language? Or you knew it already before you came?
No, we have a training center down there in Brazil, and I was in there for about 6 weeks. But that's a pretty controlled environment. And then it probably took me about 3 months to be
Yeah.
able to speak and understand okay, and be understood.
Mhm.
Maybe a little more than that, maybe about 4.5 months because of that. I'm saying 3 months after I left that training center and we're there for 6 weeks. So
Yeah.
probably about 4.5 months to be comfortable understanding people and talking to people in Portuguese.
Mhm. You know Spanish too?
I was Yeah, I do know Spanish. It takes me a little bit to switch into Spanish, but I kind of cracked the code from
Mm.
transferring Portuguese to Spanish. Like the word like tempo in Portuguese is time, in Spanish
Tiempo.
it's tiempo.
Yeah.
So if you just apply that, like anything that's like an E,
Yeah.
just add an IE
Yeah.
and you turn it into Spanish.
Yeah.
There's just a couple different tricks like that. So
Hmm.
I was able to kind of I can talk to people in Spanish, maybe not as well as Portuguese. Portuguese is kind of like second English to me at this point.
Yeah.
Like I can just switch and go, but Spanish takes a little bit more.
No, Spanish was my saving grace here. Like, if I didn't know Spanish, oh man, I wouldn't be able to get by. Like, knowing Spanish has allowed me to understand 85% of Portuguese. So, like, right from the get go, when I was here, I was able to just get by. I was able to talk. No, not talk, but I was able to understand a lot of it, and I was able to speak Portuñol, which is the combination of
Yeah.
Spanish and Portuguese. But yeah, after studying it for the past 2 months, I have to admit that Portuguese, in my opinion, is a much more advanced language than Spanish. Much more like the pronunciations, the spelling, and just like I used to think they were very, very similar. And grammatically and syntax, with syntax, it is kind of similar, but it's nothing as similar as I thought it was, as I thought it would be. It's not exactly. I thought that you could just switch it over, but not really. They even think differently. Like the Portuguese think differently. The way that they structure things is differently. In my opinion, Spanish is much easier than Portuguese. But maybe I'm biased because I already know Spanish. I don't know. But
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people who like I've heard talking to Brazilians and Americans who speak Portuguese and try to learn Spanish and vice versa, that it's much easier for people who speak Portuguese to learn Spanish typically and understand it than it is for Spanish to understand Portuguese.
yeah,
And learn to speak it. For whatever reason, I don't know what that would be, why it is that way, but yeah, I've grown to really love Spanish. It wasn't
yeah,
something that it wasn't a language that I really wanted to learn a ton in my whole life. Like I took German in high school and stuff like that. But after learning Portuguese, I was like, now this is the Spanish I like. It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
Spanish, but it's got, it's not quite as harsh. It's a little bit more flowy. Spanish is it's fast, but it feels like like chopped up fast words.
Yeah,
And then Portuguese, everything kind of just melts together and blends together.
yeah, beautiful.
And now that I've learned Spanish, I absolutely love Spanish as well. So,
Yeah. The Portuguese, well, the Spanish that I learned is the Castellano, which is,
Yeah.
as you may know, it's like the Italian Spanish. But
Yeah, I think it's kind of if you know Castellano, I feel like it's a little bit easier to learn at least Gaúcho Portuguese because Spanish llorar
mhm,
is chorar with the Argentine way, and in Portuguese the word is chorar, spelled differently and pronounced the way it would be in Argentina and stuff like that.
yeah. Now, people always make fun of me when I'm in the United States speaking Spanish. They're like, "What the hell are you speaking? You speaking Italian or are you speaking Spanish?" I'm like, "Yo, that's how I learned to speak it." It's all good
That's
though.
awesome.
But some people are saying hello, salute from Porto Alegre. Someone saying the truth is Spanish and Italian and Portuguese are similar. Yup, they're all Romance languages. Very true. Very true. Yeah, I mean, and actually, I have to admit, without knowing Spanish, I wouldn't be able to get like when I was in Italy. That came in handy. I got to admit, like the Spanish came in handy. The Spanish is a lifesaver. Like with all the Romance languages, if you know Spanish, I believe like that's the key to getting by anywhere else in terms of like even French. You could understand some French, if you know Spanish. Not as much as Italian, but I felt like when I was in Italy, I was speaking some Spanish, and people they were kind of understanding what I was saying. There
That's
were.
interesting. Huh.
I got yelled at a couple times though. People were like, "Why are you trying to speak to me in Spanish?" I'm like, "That's I don't know. Like I'm trying to figure it out." Oh man, that's funny.
Yeah, I heard Italian one time shortly after I got back from Brazil, and I was like, did I come back and lose my language skill? Like, I feel like I should be understanding this right
Yeah,
now, but
yeah,
I don't. And then I realized it was Italian,
yeah.
and I kind of found out that I don't know if you guys have heard of Il Divo, but they're like they sing like a bunch of classic songs, whatever, kind of like opera style.
Mm,
My mom loved listening to them, and when I got back from my mission, they sing a lot in Spanish and Italian and just different languages. And I learned that with Italian, if I'm listening to it and reading the lyrics, I can understand it
mm,
because a lot of things are
Interesting.
pronounced differently but spelled the same between Spanish and Portuguese, or kind of the opposite of that, where they're spelled one way but pronounced another way, and then it's like, oh, that pronunciation tells me that that's what this means in either Portuguese or
Hmm.
Spanish. And so I can't speak Italian at all, but
yeah,
I can kind of read along if I have someone saying it at the same time
sure.
and reading it and
Yeah,
understand it, which is kind of
that makes sense.
That's interesting.
Definitely
Hmm.
makes sense.
My language search was in Latin and ancient Greek in college, so
Oh wow.
Latin and Italian, there's a similarity there. You can kind of glean some meaning. And modern Greek and ancient Greek are different, but you could make guesses at what words are, between the two of them. But so I'm,
For
I'm good
sure.
with Latin names, but that's about it.
Yeah, and that must help with like
I
your
can tell
plant
you the
medicine and
names of
everything.
plants.
With the plants, that's all in Latin, right? All the scientific names.
Well, and it's interesting because if you know Latin, then you can tell what the plant looks like.
Mm,
Something called Virginia creeper is called Parthenosis quinquefolium,
mm-hmm.
and quinquefolia means 5 leaves.
Mm,
It has 5 leaves on one stem. So, or something like sweet fern is Comptonia peregrina, which just means foreign plant, but it was only foreign to the British botanist who named it when he was in
right.
America.
Yeah.
But a lot of them have. There's almost like humor in the Latin names of plants once you know some of the Greek. So if you know Italian or anything like that, you could probably guess what certain parts of it were. But
Yeah.
well, like when you said the word folia, that's leaf in Portuguese.
Mm-hmm.
So
yep,
there you
yeah,
go.
they all share like
Aquafoliaceae.
common roots.
Mate, Ilex aquafoliaceae. So aqua foliaceae, water leaf, water
Yep,
plant.
yep, yep. I was going to ask you, Dave.
Yeah.
What do you know about Ilex vomitoria? Have you ever had that?
I actually never had it, but I'm aware of it. It's a cousin of mate, obviously. It's in the Ilex family,
Yeah,
and I believe
I
it's
think that's a
native.
big market.
Yeah, oh yeah,
I
yeah,
think I
yeah,
think it
yeah.
could be a
There's a couple of
huge,
them.
huge thing.
Yeah, there's a couple of
Yeah.
them in that family. I think they're native to like
Yep.
Florida. I'm pretty sure it's like native
Yep.
to Florida, and from what I understand, it
Yep.
was used ritualistically by Native Americans originally. It was used to kind of like a coming of age sort of drink. I think that the vomitoria signified the vomiting or purgatory effects of the plant. So
So the plant,
yeah,
the
but
plant was used. Yeah, it was used as like an emetic
mm,
in a way. But they when the anthropologists were coming down initially and seeing this usage of the plant, they were drinking copious amounts of it, and they had this ritual where they would make themselves throw up
mm,
every morning. So to them, they saw it and they're like, "Oh, it's an emetic. It makes them throw up." Um, but so it got the horrible Latin name, vomitoria. However, the plant contains caffeine. It does not make you vomit. And I think that it has the potential, if it were to be wild crafted in the U.S., because it tastes very. Have you ever tasted it before?
No, I
There's a
haven't.
couple
I've had
tea brands that sell it.
the actually I may have tasted it before. I may have. So I think somebody may have sent me a sample a couple years ago. Don't quote me on
So
that.
if
No,
you were to
Yupon. They
roast
gave
it
me
in a
Yupon.
similar
Sorry.
way, okay, yeah. If you were to roast it in a similar way to mate, I think if you were to be able to get that to somebody who actually knew how to prepare mate, it would taste very similar. Like you can tell that it has potential. So I think that would be an interesting realm to get into
That's
because
interesting.
it's kind of unexplored.
And the
So
fact that
Do it.
you brought up the caffeine of mate. Let me get your take on this. So I've spoken about this in the past, but I'll bring it up again. For me, the caffeine in mate works differently than the caffeine in coffee. But many times a biologist will come up to me or doctors, MDs will say, Dave, that's ridiculous. The caffeine molecule is the caffeine molecule, period. It doesn't matter where it is. The caffeine is caffeine. But for me, my own anecdotal experiment is very simple. Drink a liter of coffee. How do I feel? Drink a liter of mate. How do I feel? And it's like night and day. So for me, it's like so obvious that the caffeine is working differently in one medium than it is in the other medium. What's your take on that?
that's a scientific reductionist viewpoint, though, is that all chemicals behave the same
They don't
way
work in a vacuum.
because no. So that's the reductionist viewpoint, is that the part is a representation of the whole, and it's true in some sense. But I think the bundling of xanthines and theobromine, I think those things alter the effect of the caffeine in it. At least for me too. I feel like
Yeah.
it's a whole different experience.
I
Than
feel like it's so
coffee.
stabilized. Like the caffeine
Yeah.
is so
Yep.
stable when you're drinking it from mate, but when you're drinking the caffeine from coffee, it's like this acute onset of yes, you're
Yep.
going to get benefits from the caffeine. Obviously, caffeine is going to enhance your memory. It's going to increase your alertness. But I feel like it's like a sharp decline when you're drinking it. It's like a fast intake and a sharp decline when you're drinking it from coffee. But with mate,
Yeah.
it's like a gradual, just levels off and just integrates so well. And there's no sharp decline. Everything for me, like I could literally drink a liter of mate before I go to sleep. I kid you not, and I'll go to sleep like a baby. I'm not going to stay up all night.
Me too.
I don't know. That's just me,
Yep.
and that's a lot of other people too. But
Yep.
I mean, technically, if I'm totally honest, I could do the same thing with coffee too. But
Yeah.
for me, I noticed that everything is so much more gentle with mate. Nothing is very aggressive with it. You know.
I wonder if it's how you're taking it though, because I agree. Like, I mean, I've never used coffee, never had coffee, never used it for a caffeine kick or anything like that. But like in my experience with like an energy drink or something like that, like I was looking at, I don't know if you guys have tried like the guayaki, like canned mate,
Oh yeah,
stuff like that.
good guys.
In my opinion, the mint flavors are the only ones worth drinking. But that's just me.
Yeah.
Those
Agree.
have
There's
like
a lot of sugar.
like that size can has about as much caffeine as like a Monster does,
Mhm.
or something like that. And I wonder if it's how you're drinking it as well as
Like the
'cause I've heard stuff
application
that
of it, you're saying. Like the,
What's that?
the application of it, like how you're applying it, like the delivery of it, you're saying.
yeah, like you drink a can of Monster or like a cup of coffee
Mhm.
super quickly, but you know with Shimahon and Mate, you're kind of taking
Mm.
your time.
Yeah.
I bought a like a tea strainer to like take Shimahon to campus with me, so I'm still in school, and so I'll to like kind of brew it at home and just have it in a water bottle thermos rather than bringing the whole thing, the whole setup to make it and stuff.
Mm.
And I wonder if you were to make Shimahon the same exact way that you did a coffee and drink a liter of each of them like that, if it would be maybe a little bit.
Well, I think you have a
Or-
point because a lot of people who are involved with like medicines and rituals, they say that the setting has a lot to do with like the effects of something. Like how's your setting? How's the environment? How are you approaching a particular drink or a particular edible or whatever it may be? How are you approaching it? What's the environment? And I, have experience with that too. Like I've experimented with different plant medicines, and there's been times where my environment wasn't that great, and that had an effect on that experience. But if the environment was great, that also had a very powerful effect on the experience. So I think the environment and your intention with these things, because like for instance, you got some people who take different sorts of plant medicines and they go to parties and they rave, and I have nothing against that, but that's just not my style. And they'll have a crazy experience, and maybe they'll throw up at the end of the night and be sick. And then you might have another person who goes off into the woods and drinks their mate or takes their other plant medicines, and they go onto a spiritual journey, which is a whole different journey than a journey inside of a club where you're partying all night and drinking alcohol. And I'm not knocking that. I have nothing against that. It's just I feel like it's how you approach something. So mate, I think generally speaking, people, and not to overgeneralize, but most people who are drinking mate are just kind of like peaceful, kind of peaceful. And this is a huge generalization. I'm aware of that. But most of the people I come into contact with who are drinking mate are pretty peaceful people. I mean, they're not out there, I'm sure that there's a lot of bad people drink mate too, but just generally speaking, you find that a lot of mate drinkers are very kind of in tune, gentle people, Of course, there's no science behind this, but it's just my own anecdotal experience with mate drinkers in general. So I think it has a lot to do with the drinker's mindset. Where's your mindset at? Because a lot of people drinking the Red Bulls and everything, they're kind of like type A personality people. And I'm overgeneralizing, but they're like, oh my God, let's go. And they're drinking the Red Bulls. They're telling the Red Bull to make them feel that way. It's like their own intention is amplifying the applicability of these compounds, I believe. And this gets into more metaphysics, I know, but
the objective of mate, I think, is different in general too. Like the approach for most people with caffeine is like, this is how I start my day. This is how I need to start my day. Whereas mate, it's more, I enjoy starting my day with mate. It's a different sort of relationship, at least for me. It would be interesting though to take a gourd, how much you use in a gourd, say it's 3/4 full, that same, fill it in here like as if you were going to drink it out of the gourd, but put that in a French press and let that brew the same amount of time you'd be brewing this with the same amount of water, and then drink both of them and see if that has any effect.
Right. That's
I think the times that I've made French press mate versus out of the gourd, I do feel like that affects you a little bit more quickly, but that's probably because you're drinking it in a faster manner than you'd be doing with this. So I think that's definitely true for sure.
I like that.
Well, I also think with like each quia gourd full, you're kind of washing the stuff that's in the herb, so it's becoming a little less and less potent as it goes. So I feel like that's why it's more of kind of like a flat, line, not so much a spike and drop, as maybe it starts off one way, and then as you start to water down the herb a little bit, it starts to get a little less.
No, I agree.
Potent, but you're still piggybacking.
No, there's been studies on green tea where they say they did like these different experiments where they tested how fast the caffeine's released. Like say you have like 30 grams of tea in a cup, and then you add the hot water. They say like the first flush, like the first time you add the hot water, like 85 or maybe even 90% of the caffeine is extracted in first initial flush.
Wow.
And then everything else is like that 10%, that 5%, and then little particles of that, percentages, micro percentages of that. So it's like with mate, let's say hypothetically you use 30 grams of it, and let's say you get, let's assume that it's equivalent to a coffee. So you may get like 100 milligrams or 75 milligrams of caffeine. You're going to get, most of that, 90% of that caffeine is going to be consumed on that first gourd. Well, you got to also adjust for the fact that you're not, all the mate in the gourd is not getting wet. So you're not extracting everything. But let's assume you do. You're getting most of that caffeine out on those first couple cycles. And then the rest of it is just like smooth sailing. Like your body, you're just drinking glorified, vitamin water, essentially. I mean, not to underestimate the mate, but you know what I mean? Like, you're getting most of those compounds out in the first couple cycles. And then after that, you're just kind of just enjoying the flavors and enjoying the ride. And you're going to get some, minerals still. But no one has really done the deep science. Like, the science is still so fresh with mate. Like, the pharmacology is so young. And there's only a couple scientists in the world, really, who made a name for themselves. There's probably less than 10 who have dealt with mate. If you look at green tea, there's probably hundreds, maybe thousands of scientists who have published stuff on green tea, maybe tens of thousands. So mate's still on the beginning stages, in my opinion. We don't even really know
Yeah.
how it works, in my opinion.
It's surprising to me that it hasn't exploded more in popularity yet. It's very popular, but it seems like something that could be so trendy here, even beyond the level that it is now, because it's such a neat thing. When people see you drinking it, they're like, everyone wants to know what it is and wants to hear about it, and everyone's curious. So
Yeah.
I'm waiting for that, like, everybody's drinking mate thing to happen. But
Yeah. Well, if you read like the beginning journals, like there was like in the early 1900s, late 1800s, there's a couple articles that were published on mate. And they're always surprising when you read them. You could actually buy these articles on Amazon. It's called like the History of Yerba Mate, 1800, something like that. And supposedly, like the early pioneers of mate, their plan was to get mate kiosks into hospitals all across the country. They wanted like mate bars inside hospitals because they found that mate was helping people recover from illnesses and surgeries and different problems. But then the tea companies and the coffee companies like totally killed that idea. Right, as soon as it became presentable, these companies came in, all the tea companies and the coffee companies, and they just killed those ideas. And they started to tell people that mate should only be used as a supplement. And that's what killed the mate industry, in my opinion. In the early 1900s, these coffee companies and tea companies, they were worried about mate's potential perseverance, within the country, but it didn't really take. And then I have to give credit. It was like, it took about 100 years for a company in the United States to really start to gain traction in mate. And I give that credit to Guayaquil. They were the first company in the United States to gain traction with yerba mate. And that only started in 1996. So that's 100 years later. It took 100 years for one company to come and to bring some traction to yerba mate. And then, of course, Ecoteas came in 1998, and they kind of piggybacked what Guayaquil was doing. And now these two companies basically kind of have a duopoly in the United States in terms of like loose leaf yerba mate and ready to drink cans. Like those two companies control the market in the United States. There's no doubt about it. I mean, no one really talks about that.
Right.
It just is what it is. But this is more of a kind of an entrepreneurial topic now, but it kind of goes into what the premise of what I was saying is that the good thing is now is that we have a lot of these companies online, like GoYerbaMate.com and all these other companies on Amazon who are just like bringing in tons of different brands of mate, Cruz de Malta, Canaries, anything you want. And now mate is so readily available in the country, and that's a beautiful, amazing thing. But yet, even with all those things said, mate still hasn't really caught on yet, in my opinion. Like, I don't know if you guys saw in the last video, but my estimate, and some people said I was totally underestimating it, but I only believe that no more than 100 to 225,000 people every single day in the United States drink mate the traditional way. That's my estimate. I could be wrong. What do you guys think? How many people do you think on a daily basis in the country of 375 million people in the United States of America, how many people do you think are actually waking up and preparing mate out of a gourd? My guess is like no more than 250,000 people in the entire country. Maybe I'm totally wrong. I don't know. That's just my feeling. There's no science behind this.
It feels a little steep for me. I don't know.
Yeah.
Unless I've introduced people to it, I don't really meet many people aside from you guys and a couple other people that actually drink it on a daily basis.
I don't think as many people
buying it at a store or whatever. But
well, even a lot of the like gauchos that live here in Utah, they just kind of haven't. Even though there is a store kind of nearby, it's also not their preferred stuff. So they just kind of get out of the habit of drinking it as well. People who grew up and were raised drinking it. So it's, I think that's maybe a generous estimate of how many people are drinking it every day. So I don't think it's very big. I feel like it should be like I know you guys agree with that. It's just it's fun, more than like anything else to me. It's that thing that I have that is just one of the things about me that I like doing, and I think it makes me unique in that regard. But I definitely would not mind to have it becomes super mainstream.
No, I wouldn't mind at all either. I think that'd be great. I really would hope for that to happen. I feel like it's going to happen. I feel like it's just going to take time. and it's going to take conversations like we're having right now. I really believe not to overestimate what we're doing right here, but I think that these sort of conversations we're having now are going to help lay the bedrock, and they have been, to create a foundation of mate drinkers in this country. You know, because it's like because people don't know about mate, so when they see a video like this, they're like, "Wait a minute, what is this? Mate? What are they drinking? Wait a minute, let me Google it. Wait a minute. Oh, where can I get a gourd? Where can I get the tea? Where can I get this thing called the bombilla, bombisha, quia?" And then they start drinking it, and then they tell 10 other people, and those 10 people tell 5 more people, and those 5 people tell 50 more people, and exponential growth. You know,
Yeah.
so it's important that we're having
One
these
of-
conversations.
One of the interesting things, some people who listen to my music on Instagram and YouTube.
Oh, share
and
your
stuff,
profile. Share
in-
your what is your?
Oh, I
Where
will,
can people
yeah.
find you?
Some of the people that I interact with on Instagram in the Middle East, mate is super popular in the Middle East.
Oh,
right now.
yeah.
Which is who would think that? But it's
Yeah,
in,
I didn't
in
know that.
Iran and places like that. It's unbelievable.
Well, there's a reason for it,
No
though.
clue. Yeah, someone said to me, they're like, "Oh, is that mate?" I was like, "Oh yeah." They're like, "Oh, I'm from Iran and I drink mate all the time."
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing there, you know.
Oh, yeah. Well, the thing is that the reason why mate caught on in the Middle East is because, excuse me, in the 1800s, when Argentina was trying to basically revitalize the mate industry there, a lot of immigrants from like Syria and that area, that part of the world, they were in Argentina, and they started tending the fields and starting farms and things like that. So when they left and went home, or their children, they already had a culture of drinking tea in a circle there in the Middle East. That culture has been around for tens of thousands of years. Well, I don't know about tens of thousands, but thousands of years. And so when they found out about mate, you know, in the 1800s, and they brought that back there, even the beginning of 1900s up until the mid 1900s, they brought that back and they just inserted mate into their culture of black tea. So in Syria and Lebanon, where they drink tons of mate now, they basically took their rituals that were already pre-existing with the black tea, because they drink black tea with sugar and they eat a lot of cookies and stuff, and they were like, okay, well, let's do that with mate now, and they adapted that into their own culture now. So mate now has become a part of their own culture. They have their own ways of drinking it. They have their own little glass gourds. They have their own little things of sugar that they put in it. They have their own method of mate that the world has never seen before, and that was literally created in Syria and Lebanon, their own culture of mate that they literally created themselves once they got this. And I feel like that's going to happen in China, that's going to happen in Japan, that's going to happen in Korea. And once that happens, and I know that it's going to happen, it's inevitable, and India, once it happens in those 4 countries, the game is going to change. Like, we can no longer grow mate just in South America anymore. I feel like we're going to have to grow it in the United States. We're going to have to grow mate in the United States. And people always yell at me and curse me for saying this because they're like, Dave, keep our secret. Well, no, there is no secret. Mate is not owned by anybody. The earth doesn't own anything. You know, it's like it's free.
That's why the Ilex vomitoria. I'm telling you, there's going to be a market for foraged mate.
Yeah.
Foraged native mate from here.
Oh, yeah.
I really.
It could grow.
I'm
Like,
amazed
I
we
know it
didn't
could grow
capitalize.
here. Why can't it grow here? Of course it could grow here. Like, I've had mate scientists and people like, no, impossible. I don't think it's impossible because plants could adapt. You know, like,
Yeah.
say you have a plant that has to grow 2,000 feet above sea elevation. It needs 80% humidity. It needs a certain amount of rainfall. Well, yeah, maybe those requirements are ideal for a certain plant, but plants, just like humans, can adapt to their environments. That's what adaptogen plants are. An adaptogen is a plant that adapted to its environment, right? So, not to say that mate is an adaptogen, probably is, but I feel like mate just needs a chance, and it needs, you know, capital behind it to prove these experiments, and someone needs to grow it somewhere else, and I think it could happen. It's just no one has ever really done it. No one has ever.
Well, coffee has a very specific set of parameters where it needs to be grown, humidity, soil type. So I think if they can accommodate coffee in, you know, multiple continents, they can probably find a way to adapt mate to other
yeah.
climates. Then
I mean, if you look at any fruit, vegetable, you get, you know, like that's how we've got fruit in season all year long, just because
Right.
it's being grown other places and just being shipped. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't even have to grow here. just
Yeah.
keep growing it down there, and it could still happen as long as it gets, like you said, like enough capital behind it, enough people into it and stuff. Like I've actually looked into it myself, getting like my own personal plant, but I know it would never, I'd never get it to the point where it could yield enough for me to drink from it regularly.
Yeah, yeah,
Unless I just took like the leaves, like a couple of the leaves, and like brewed them in a pot or something like that, just like a normal tea or something like that. But to drink it the way we drink it, like with the big mound on the side like that, you can't do it at home. But yeah, for like Utah, I'd have to have it as a house plant. I couldn't have it outside because it would just fry in the sun and lack humidity and stuff. But I've looked into it. I would love to have my own, just because I love the plant so much. I just want to have it, in my
yeah.
house, even as just a house plant.
They
Well, you
sell,
could do that. Yeah, you could buy that.
Yeah. Well, and
Mhm.
Logi's greenhouse in Connecticut, you can order them online too, but they have mate plants there. I had one for a while, but it did all right for a while. But it's I think you need to be supplementing light. It's not a very good window plant. In the summer
Yeah.
it's fine, but in the winter it definitely struggles without artificial lighting on it. But
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely like you could grow, like you could buy, like there's places in Florida that'll sell you the plant. But yeah, you could definitely grow mate. I know people who've grown it in their house. It's kind of like a plant that's a little bit like temperamental. So yeah, there's like a difference between just like growing it as a house plant and like you could pick a couple leaves and throw it in the oven and make your own little brew. But to grow it like on a commercial level, like outside, you can't just like go be in like the Northeast and put it in your garden and it's gonna die. It's just not gonna survive. It needs a certain. It's a tropical, subtropical plant, so
Mhm.
it needs that, and it likes like red soil. So soil with a lot of like different high levels of iron and different sorts of properties in it. So you know, there's people right now who are growing green tea inside greenhouses, inside indoors even, and that might even be an application in the future, like growing mate indoors as an experiment to see what happens in terms of like hydroponically. There's a lot of things that can be done. It's just the concept is so new that a lot of people aren't willing to put the money behind it because mate hasn't really caught on yet, the herb. But in terms of the actual cans drinks, that is definitely caught on. Like Guayaquil has definitely got that going. Now the Marley family's behind that as well too. They licensed their name for their own Marley Mate cans now too. So that's something that's definitely has a lot of potential with the cans and all that. That's all growing. But the loose leaf herb, that's still really a very small player in the United States right now. It's
Yeah.
still super small.
If you don't mind me shifting
No,
gears
please.
on it a little bit, getting back just to the idea of drinking it, what's your guys' favorite stuff to add in there? Like I love drinking it 9 times out of 10. It's just, straight up Chimahone. But like I like putting like star anise in there.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good one to put in. And I actually gathered some pine needles recently.
I love it with the pine.
And
Oh yeah.
yeah, and used pine needles in the Chimahone. It kind of made it a lot more like,
It's
it
sappy.
made it a lot sweeter
Yeah.
than I thought it would be. Yeah, it wasn't quite the flavor I thought it was going to give, but I liked it, and it was kind of fun.
Oh yeah, I love adding herbs. Like for me, it depends on like in the summertime, I like to add a lot of citrusy herbs. Like I'll add like lemon peel, orange peel. I'll add mint, spearmint, peppermint. I like a lot of like citrusy, light, crispy sort of herbs in the hotter months. But in the cooler months, I like to add more like robust sort of hearty herbs like cinnamon, the star anise,
Mhm.
definitely the star anise, nutmeg, cardamom.
Oh yeah.
These sort of herbs I love. Like blending is like a huge thing for me. I really love blending mate. I love the flavor profiles and just like experimenting with it. But I would say if I had to pick 3 or 4 herbs that if I had to just pick those herbs just to blend with mate, it would probably be like rooibos, green rooibos, mint, uh, lemon, and orange peel. Those 4 herbs I really just love blending with mate a lot. It's just the flavor profiles with those.
Cool.
What about?
I really like to use. I do a lot of foraging out here on the farm, but we have a lot of pineapple weed that grows in the area.
Oh, pineapple weed. Yeah, that.
The Matricaria family is in the same family as chamomile. So
Okay.
it looks like a little chamomile plant, but it has this like pineapple-y, almost fruity taste to it. You can actually, I think you can probably buy it online as a tea as well. But it grows everywhere, so I dry a lot of that out and add it to it sometimes. I also love holy basil,
Oh, I love
or
holy
tulsi.
basil. Yeah, Tulsi.
Oh, so that with mate is like delicious, especially if it's a little bit sweet. If you, that's a way I would give it to somebody in a French press with a little tulsi mate and like a little bit of honey or a little bit sweet. It's delicious that way. I love having it. But 9 times out of 10, I drink it just straight.
Yeah,
But
same thing with
Yeah,
me.
me too.
Ricky, maybe you can answer this
Yeah.
question. Somebody asked about they have IBD, and they're saying that they want to keep on drinking mate, but they're not sure how they could do it. They've been trying to mix it with ginger, cardamom, but no improvements. Any recommendations?
that's a tricky thing because stimulants in general are not great for IBD.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they should cut it halfway with Tulsi or something. It really stimulants cause a big problem for that. So maybe try decreasing the amount.
Yeah, that's what
No
I
matter
usually
what
tell
you mix
people.
in with it, you're not going to be able to counteract the irritating factor for you with IBD.
Yeah,
Um, but that's a tricky one. That's a tricky one.
definitely. Now someone's asking, and this is kind of like a, they're saying mate makes me feel sick, but I want to keep on drinking it. What could I do? Yeah, I mean, I
Drink
don't know
less.
with that. I
Drink
mean,
less.
your body might be telling you something. If it makes you feel sick,
Hmm.
I kind of tell people like, okay, if you get a adverse reaction of the mate, then try changing it up. Like maybe try changing the brand, or maybe try diluting it heavily. Maybe try adding calming herbs like chamomile, lemon verbena, catnip. These sort of nervine herbs.
Yeah.
Those are kind of like my initial suggestions. Of course, I can't prescribe anything to anybody. You got to do your own due
Hmm.
diligence. But just mate for me is like a stimulant, but it's also calming as well, but more so of a stimulant. So if your body
Yeah.
just can't deal with stimulants, you might be just hypersensitive to the stimulating effects of mate. So maybe you got to
There
try something else.
There are some brands that have made me nauseous before. I remember when I was drinking a lot of
Oh yeah,
guayaki way back.
yeah.
That made me nauseous.
Uh-huh.
I used to get some nausea from that. Not so much the San Mateo, the sort of air dried one, but there's been some that I think my stomach just didn't love,
Yeah,
and I have
that's
a
happened to me. With
I have a pretty solid stomach.
yeah,
So when something bothers me, I'm always like, I probably shouldn't be having this brand. That's
yeah.
happened to me before.
That happened to me with a brand
I've
called
had it.
Cachamate once, where I was drinking it, and every single time I had it, it was one particular. They have a lot of blended ones. I don't remember exactly which one I was drinking, but I remember like 4 years ago when I was in Argentina, every single time I drank this one particular flavor of Cachamate, it just my stomach like, and an hour
Hmm.
later my stomach was just killing me, man. I'm like, oh my god, what this particular blend of mate just killed me. So, yeah, I can relate. Some people say that there's certain blends, like Rosa Mate, for some people, they just can't deal with it. Some
Yep.
people,
Yeah.
Rosa Mate is fine for them. So, it really
Yep.
depends.
Yeah, I try finding like a softer herb, one that's not quite as pungent. Like if you can figure out how to make like a Brazilian type, like Chimango, that stuff kind of runs out of flavor pretty quick, in my
Oh,
opinion.
yeah, real quick.
That's kind of why I don't love drinking it, is because it was kind
So
of a waste
light.
of money for me. But to kind of build up your stomach to it, I think maybe you switch into something a little more, suave at
Yeah.
first would kind of help out. It also kind of depends on how long you've been drinking it. Like to some degree, first couple times I had Shimahone, like I went crazy. I had the jitters, like like it was pretty nuts. But now, if I'm excited or something and I have it, then I can feel it. But other than that, it's a good calming experience for me. The ritual of drinking it, but yeah, I think switching up herb is a good idea.
Yep.
Trying maybe less of it, like you said too.
Yep.
Also, I found the temperature of water also plays a part. If you're drinking it when it's just warm and not quite hot enough, it'll kind of upset my stomach too.
Mm. Mm.
You got to make sure it's not too hot, because then you run the risk of throat cancers and stuff like that, stomach cancer. That's just like with any hot water. But I think like if I took, like drank a Kuya full and then had like an hour or two break in between, and I go to add my water to it, it's kind of just warm, not hot anymore. And that'll make me feel a little funny. That'll make me feel a little sick.
Mhm.
So that might also be a factor in it, is how warm it is.
Also, smaller gourds too. If they're drinking it traditionally, this might not be the right size gourd or what you guys are using. That might maybe
That's a
something
big one.
smaller. To
Something tiny, right?
Yeah.
Actually, this is a good little segue, real quick. Since you mentioned the smaller gourd, this is for everyone that's watching this video right now. I'm putting on a little contest. Let me put it on the screen. 1 second. Okay, so anyone who's watching this right now, there's a contest. It's just a raffle. Basically, just share a picture on Instagram with some sort of mate-related picture. Tag Circle a Drink on the picture, and I'll throw your name into a raffle. Then I'll throw that into like a randomizer, and then on Monday, somebody will win a kit. We have these little tiny gourds. They're like tiny. They're like this big. They're called the Lexa cups. They're wooden wrapped in metal with a bombisha and some organic mate. So that's the kit. So anyone that wants to get involved, just take a picture, something to do with mate, tag Circle of Drink, and then take a screenshot of that and send it to me on Instagram or david@circleofdrink.com through email, and we'll throw your name in for the raffle. Thank you guys for participating. Let me ask you guys, how do you feel mate connects with creativity? Do you think there's a correlation in terms of like working? Does it increase your work power? Does it increase your brain power? What do you guys think on that? Or is that just hyperbole? Is that just, nonsense? Or you think there's a real correlation?
Well, for me, definitely like being in front of a computer all day. Like I get the opportunity to do some like web design and photoshopping and video editing and stuff like that. It's like, but it's not, that's on the good days. Other days I'm just doing like research online and all that kind of stuff. And on days like that, having Shima Honed help me, like when I feel stumped, like I definitely really like getting into working with Shima Honed, because I feel like if I don't, my drive is pretty low. So it's, in terms of creativity, I would say it probably helps. I haven't thought of it like that, but I definitely don't feel as productive working without it, just because that could be a number of factors. The stimulant just getting me up and ready to go, or just the fact that I have it. Like my favorite thing to do, like I like drinking it while I work, but my favorite is to go just drink somewhere where I have nowhere to be, and I'm just up in in the mountains and the trees and just think. It's kind of been a while. I've got 2 kids, so it's kind of hard to just sit there and think while drinking Shima Honed, because I'm always kind of helping take care of them. But I definitely, I would say for me, it helps me, helps my mind just work a little better. It helps me get in the right zone.
I feel you. What about you, Ricky?
I feel like for me, I kind of go back and forth. I'm always interested in that sort of question for myself with all the plants and medicine I work with in general. Because I have a cycle of nourishing infusions that I go through, but I notice the difference between a stretch of time when I'm drinking mate versus when I'm drinking coffee. Because I still drink coffee occasionally too.
Sure, me too.
Mate, I definitely have more lucidity. I have a little more focus, and I feel like I have a bit more of a flow with mate versus coffee. I feel like coffee gets the job done, but it doesn't get it done tactfully. Mate has a tactful way of motivating you, So I definitely notice that mate facilitates creativity and facilitates just life in general for me. Every time I take a break and come back to it, I'm like, that's right. That's why I like to have this, So.
Of course. Yeah, like that's always been my story, my true story, where I've said it a million times, but for the new people watching this, the first time I really thought about what mate was doing for me was when maybe 6 months after I started drinking, and I started drinking mate in 2009. spring 2009, and I remember like a couple months after that, it might have been the summertime 2009 now, I was reading, and I was just like, I feel like I'm comprehending this information better. I feel like I'm really absorbing this better because I'm the sort of person that, like, I'm always thinking about how I think. I'm just one of those sort of people that I think about how I think. Like, I'm very in tune with myself and how my mind works and how my brain works. So I'm always questioning, like, oh, I'm one of those people like, am I thinking better today, or am I absorbing information better today, or could I deal with computers too? So I'm like, am I doing a better job on the computers today? So I thought about it. I'm like, wait a minute, why am I reading better? Why am I comprehending this data more easily? Why am I absorbing it? And I was like, wait a minute, what has changed in my life? And I know this sounds like a commercial for mate, but it's true. And I'm like, it's the mate. The mate is the only thing that really significantly changed in my life. And then that's what got me into researching mate over 10 years ago, where I was like, wait a minute, does mate do this for the mind? Does mate do this? And there was hardly any information. There still is hardly, well, now there's a lot of anecdotal information, but back then there was nobody really talking about like these effects of mate. And then when I came across a scientist called Dr. Alvaro de Mejia, and she was talking about mate, like how mate had, like, she was like proving the antioxidant capacity of mate, showing that it's like astronomically high. And I started thinking about antioxidants. So I'm like, wait a minute. If mate has such a high abundance of antioxidant capacity, then maybe it is helping to enhance neural effects, neural connections in the mind. Maybe anything that has high antioxidant capacity could help you think better, could help you absorb data better. Why not? I mean, that kind of makes sense because when you think about it, what's the act of aging? The act of aging is basically your body's decomposing. You're losing that effective power of antioxidants that are helping to prolong your life. So it's like, I feel like mate is like an anti-aging agent. And anything that's anti-aging will help to improve the elasticity and plasticity of the mind. So that, in effect, will help you absorb more data faster, at a faster rate and a prolonged rate. So that's kind of like my theory, that mate is helping you enhance your brain power. And if you think about caffeine, if you just look at the molecule of caffeine, we already know that caffeine enhances brain power, at least temporarily. We already know that caffeine enhances memory, at least temporarily. These are like scientific facts already. So mate has caffeine in it. We know that already. But these other groups of xanthines, we have to assume that these are also playing an effect in the mate's power as well. These other xanthine families that are also found in mate. So I feel like we got a long way to go in terms of like quantifying this. But anecdotally speaking, I believe that millions of people around the world could attest that mate does help enhance brain power. I've had so many stories of people telling me that. So, it's like the old saying where if enough people say something is true, it might be true. It might be true. It might not be true, but it also might be true as well. So
I think anything that reduces oxidative stress in the body, whether that's chaga, whether that's mate, whether that's going to have a positive cumulative effect on your cognition, whether it's a direct or indirect action.
Sure.
I think that's the premise for a lot of the adaptogens, is they're reducing cortisol and they reduce oxidative stress. So mate, I think, embodies both of those things. So I'm not surprised at all by that sort of cognitive boost, aside from the caffeine.
Yeah,
it definitely has a lot of adaptogenic components to it.
of course. And I feel like, especially in this day and age, with the whole thing with the coronavirus, not to go back into that topic, but I feel like anything that could help reduce stress in your life is a good thing. And for me, I haven't really been, just like everyone else in the world, like doing your normal routine, going out and doing this, going to restaurants. Like, now that we're all kind of, more quarantined or self-contained, we need things that I'm adjusting for that right now. Like I'm making sure that I do my yoga. I'm making sure that I stretch, and I'm making sure that I walk around. I'm making sure that I drink my mate. Like, these things reduce stress. So you kind of have to like really be cognizant of like where your stress is coming from in life. Like, if you got a lot of stress, do things that reduce stress. It just kind of makes like common sense, right? Do things that reduce stress. And I feel like mate is a really good regimen into your life that helps reduce stress, because the fact of preparing it, the fact of just getting the mate and the gourd and the bombisha, that's all meditative in my mind. That's a meditative act. Anything you do consciously is a meditative act. You're mindful of it. and that helps to reduce stress, and that helps to pass the time and become a part of the time, really, of what you're doing, and become mindful. So I feel like everyone who's watching this now, that if you're just finding out about mate, you may want to look into it as simply as something to help reduce stress. Like, yeah, you're going to get a lot of benefits from it, medically speaking, biologically speaking, but also the act of drinking something and preparing something and just becoming, taking on a new hobby, so to speak, that might help with, this whole quarantine situation. You might be cooped up in your house. So mate may actually have some beneficial effects in that area of your life.
It's a positive routine to add to your lifestyle, regardless of even the health effect. It's just a good. It's nice to have healthy routines that you have throughout the day. So I think for mate drinkers, it's something that they look forward to, and that it makes their day better.
Right. Totally.
Yeah, I wanted to wait until we were all on this call to make my daily Shimahone, and working. I was like, man, should I just make 2 today, or should I just wait? And
Yeah.
I definitely do think I have a limit to how much I can drink in a day. It's usually about a liter, and around that point, I'm
Yeah.
a little bit spent on it. But yeah, I agree. I love just the act of making it. When I was a missionary down in Brazil, we have kind of a hierarchy, and we have a kind of a mission president is what we call him, and he is responsible for making sure we're safe and also on task with everything. And he himself was a Gaúcho. He was born and raised down there. They're not always are they. I mean, sometimes they're Americans who just can speak Portuguese as well. But he had the ritual of drinking chimarrón. He still did and does, even on the mission. But one of the things we weren't allowed to do was drink it in our own apartment. But we could with people while we were out in the streets teaching and meeting people and stuff like that. Then it was fair game.
Yeah.
The reason he didn't want us doing it at home is because you can spend a lot of time just drinking, making it, and drinking it. And he just wanted to make sure we were being effective with our time while we were down there. So I can see, like, on the opposite, now that I'm home and I don't have that rule or restriction, it is a thing that I love doing. Like, I've got an electric jar that I can just set the temperature on, and it boils it to the right temperature, and then we'll keep it there for 2 hours until I can get to putting it in my thermos. And then there's just something about the fact that every time I make chimarrón and it's not with the Brazilian herb, and it's not like clogged up, it's like a victory. And now that I've gotten regular with it, I don't really have I don't fail with it as much as I used to. It's one of those things where, like, okay, that's a positive thing for the day already.
Yeah.
Successfully made it, and it tastes great, and it's just that particular thing. And then on the flip side, after people are done self-containing and all that kind of stuff, and you can get out there, now you get to have it with your friends, and that's the best part.
Oh yeah, that's the best.
Appeal to me is the name of your company, Circle of Drink. That's the best part. You sit in a circle and you just shoot the breeze with each other. You're not worried so much about where you're going next. You're not worried about what you got to do next. You're just sitting there. You're with your people, and you're just drinking chimarrón. Like, I really learned down in Brazil with the Brazilian people drinking chimarrón that you can take time for yourself. You can take time to step back, step away from things, and have this little ritual that brings you closer together to other people, brings you closer together to yourself. One of my favorite things was to see that, that super old Gaúcho guy whose skin is just weathered because all he does is work out in the farm in the hot sun. He's in just like destroyed. They have like these leather sandals that they wear that kind of like Toms. Those are always just weathered. They've got those big pants on, and their hands are like, leather gloves basically. But they've got like this, just the look of having that cuia in their hand and that bomba, and the stress of working all day on the farm, wrangling the animals, being out in the heat, it's gone because they're just sitting there drinking chimarrón by their fire, and it's good. Life's good.
That's a beautiful thing.
You put aside everything else, you forget whatever else you had to do, and you just relax.
That's a beautiful thing. No, I totally relate. What you're saying. Some people are coming in asking about tereré. If any one of us drinks tereré.
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know what tereré is, people watching, it's cold mate that they drink in Paraguay with ice and citrusy herbs added to it. Are you guys into Tereré? I drink it once in a while, but I'm not like die hard with it. What about you guys?
Yeah, occasionally.
Yeah.
Occasionally, but not super frequent.
Same. I'll have it when people want to have it, but I myself never make it.
Yeah, I like the hot mate. You know, what could I say? I really love hot mate. You know, in Paraguay, they drink it because it's so humid all year round, super hot. So they kind of are really used to it out there. But I don't know, something about the hot mate. Like even in the summertime, I drink hot mate. But in the summertime, I do incorporate the tereré, but not like how they drink it in Paraguay. I just make a pitcher of cold yerba mate and just drink it out of a glass a lot of times. Or sometimes I'll just use cold water and add that to my gourd, but I won't go crazy with like mixing up the herbs inside the ice like that we do in Paraguay. But yeah, I definitely drink tereré, but not like the traditional method in Paraguay. Just kind of like my own technique with it.
Yeah, I like. I've had like Brazilian takes on tereré, and I definitely prefer the stuff they drink in Paraguay. There's one specific brand. It has a K.
Carupi?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that one.
yeah. Definitely.
If in I don't know if they do the same thing in Paraguay, but in Brazil at least they'll get like they eat Hall's cough drops like candy there. Like in the register when you're at the grocery store where we have like gum and mints, they've got so many different types of Halls there, and they've got like menthol levels and all that kind of stuff. And I do enjoy if someone will get like a really powerful mentholated Halls and put that in the cup, and then they'll have the cold like mint tereré or something.
I never
like
heard of
that.
that.
Interesting.
And it just kind of hurts to drink because it's like so cold and so mentholated, potent like that.
I never heard
But
of that.
that's been my favorite way to drink tereré. I don't love drinking tereré with like they'll do like like pineapple juice or something like that. That's a little much for me. Like I said, with like the canned Shimahone, the mint flavor is the only one that's probably the closest to drinking tereré that I get now, is occasionally buying a cold can of mate, which is, I mean, it definitely hits the spot when the time is right. So.
Oh yeah. It definitely hit. You know, I'm not a big can drinker, but when I do drink it, yeah, man.
I can't
like,
hear Dave anymore. I don't know if
oh, you can't hear me
Dave,
anymore?
we can't hear you.
Oh snap!
we lost you.
You guys lost me. Hold on a second.
Still mute for me.
What
It
about?
doesn't show that you're muted either on your little
No,
file.
that's strange.
What about now?
Now you are. Now you're not. Still can't hear you.
No.
No, still can't hear you. Oh, technology.
Technology, right? That's crazy.
Well, anyone who drinks a lot of Shimahone and mate will know that there's a certain type of urination that comes with it. And I got to go take a break for one of those because
Yes,
I've been drinking quite a few. So I'll be back in just a second.
Okay.
Sorry if that's a TMI, but that's just
Am I still muted? You still can't hear me now?
Still can't hear you, Dave.
Oh no. Let's see. What about now?
That's so strange.
That is strange. Let's see.
Can the people on YouTube hear Dave or not hear me? I wonder if one of the settings got changed or something.
Yeah. What about you guys on YouTube? Could you guys hear me on YouTube?
Can you hear me, Dave?
Yeah. I could hear you. Yeah. Huh.
So for the people watching, I have tons of music online on my YouTube channel and on Instagram. I play all sorts of crazy instruments, but I do foraging and all sorts of stuff. So feel free to check that out after this if you're interested in that.
Yeah. Definitely share that. What happened here? Who could you guys hear? Could you guys hear me?
I can see your lips.
Oh yeah, they hear us both actually. They just can't. You guys can't hear me. Let's see.
Still no audio from Dave.
Darn, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
Maybe this signifies the end of our conversation.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Well, let's do it again
Bummer.
next time, guys. Next time. Another time we do it. Yeah, sorry. We'll go, shit.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah,
on, Dave.
yeah,
That was
thank
fun.
you, guys.
We should definitely do it again.
Thank you, guys. Let's do it
Oh,
again.
yeah.
Let's do it again.
For sure.
I
I
enjoyed
appreciate
it.
it.
I enjoyed
Thank
it.
you, guys.
Definitely.
Have a great
Definitely,
night.
if you want to check out
Yeah.
my Instagram or YouTube, it's Rewild Your Soul. I do foraging and music and stuff.
Rewild your
check it
soul,
out.
guys. Check that out.
I'll go. I'll be there.
Cool.
We'll do it again soon, guys. Thank you guys so much.
Stay well, Dave.
Take care,
Stay well.
guys.
Nice to meet you, Aussie.
All
Yep.
right.
Nice to meet you as well. Look forward to
Have a
doing
good
it
night,
again.
guys. Hope to talk to you soon.
Yeah,
Take care.
for
Bye.
sure. Bye.
All right.
See you later. Dave.
Take it easy, buddy. Guys, thank you all for watching. Appreciate it. I'll see you soon. Check out the code 30%. And that's going to go on for the next day. All right. Take it